He invited his black ex to his wedding to humiliate her, but now she's the one holding his fate. Part 2. You asked for it, and yes, it took a while, but trust me, it was worth the wait. It's been a while since we dropped Part 1, and the comments were wild. You wanted to know what happened after Naomi crushed Jonathan at his own wedding. You wanted more of that power, more of that drama, and more of Naomi being the strong, successful woman we all rooted for. But if you haven't seen Part 1 yet, stop right here. Hit that subscribe button. Go check it out first so you don't miss any of the emotional heat or the setup that makes this part so much more intense. Trust me, you'll be lost without it. Because what's coming now? It's not just a continuation, it's a complete shift. In this part 2, we go deeper, darker, and sharper. Get ready to see power, pride, betrayal, and yes, revenge on a whole new level. Did you ever forgive someone who didn't deserve it, just to keep your peace? Or did you let karma do the work? Let's talk in the comments. Before we get into the story, let me know where you at watching from in the comments. Naomi stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse office, the city skyline sprawling beneath her like a kingdom she'd conquered. Her phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications from news outlets, investors, and her team, all buzzing about her latest move. A month ago, her speech at Jonathan's wedding had gone viral, a masterclass in poise and power that turned her from a rising entrepreneur into a global icon. The headlines screamed, "Naomi Carter redefines revenge with grace." Her company, Carter Ventures, was now inking deals in Dubai, Tokyo, and London. She was untouchable. Or so she thought. The elevator dinged, and her new assistant, Maya, stepped in, a bright smile on her face. Maya was young, barely 25, with an eager energy that bordered on obsessive. She carried a tray of coffee and a tablet tucked under her arm. "Morning, Miss Carter," she said, setting the coffee on Naomi's desk. "Your 9 a.m. with the Singapore investors is confirmed, and I've organized your inbox." "You're welcome." Naomi glanced at her, amused. "You're efficient. I'll give you that. How'd you learn to manage chaos so fast?" Maya shrugged, her eyes gleaming. "Grew up in a big family. Had to keep everyone's schedule straight or we'd implode." She laughed, but it felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced the line in a mirror. Naomi nodded, sipping her coffee. "Keep it up, Maya. I need people I can trust." "Trust is everything," Maya said, her voice softening. She lingered by the desk, adjusting a pen, then a notepad, her fingers brushing over a stack of contracts. Naomi didn't notice the way Maya's eyes darted to the documents, or how her phone, resting on the desk, silently snapped a photo of the top page before she slipped it into her pocket. The day blurred into meetings, calls, and strategy sessions. Naomi was in her element, commanding rooms with a quiet intensity that made people lean in. But as the afternoon sun dipped low, her COO, Marcus, pulled her aside in the hallway. His face was tight, his usual easy grin gone. "We've got a problem," he said, voice low. "Jonathan's back." Naomi's stomach twisted, but her face stayed calm. "Back how?" "He's got nothing left. The wedding stunt buried him." Marcus handed her a tablet with a news article pulled up. "Disgraced CEO Jonathan Wells files. Lawsuit against Naomi Carter alleging sabotage." The words hit like a slap. "He's claiming you tanked his company on purpose," Marcus said. "Says he's got proof you leaked his financials to the press before the wedding." "That's a lie," Naomi snapped, her voice steel. "He imploded on his own. I just called him out." Marcus sighed. "I know, but the media's eating it up. And he's hinting at something else. Something personal about you. We need to get ahead of this." Naomi's mind raced. Jonathan had always been vindictive, but this felt different. Desperate. Dangerous. She thought back to the wedding, to the way he'd looked at her when she'd taken the mic and exposed his lies in front of everyone he cared about. His eyes hadn't just held anger, they'd held a promise. This isn't over. Set up a meeting with the legal team, she said finally. I want this crushed before it grows legs. Marcus nodded, but his hesitation lingered. Naomi, is there anything he could have on you? Anything we should know? She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Number. He's bluffing. But as Marcus walked away, Naomi's hand tightened around her phone. There were things, old choices, buried moments that she'd locked away years ago. Things she told herself no one could ever dig up. Jonathan couldn't know, could he? That evening, Naomi sat alone in her office, the city lights glittering outside. She pulled up the article again, skimming the comments. Naomi's a queen, but what if Jonathan's telling the truth? One read, she's too perfect. Nobody's that clean, said another. Her jaw clenched. She'd built her empire on control, on never letting the world see her sweat. But doubt was creeping in, a shadow she couldn't shake. Her phone pinged, a text from Maya. Saw the news. You okay? Need me to handle anything? Naomi stared at the message, something about its tone feeling too familiar, too intimate for someone she'd only known a few weeks. She typed back, I'm fine. Thanks. A moment later, Maya replied, Good. You're stronger than him. Always will be. Naomi frowned, setting the phone down. Maya's eagerness was starting to feel like something else, something she couldn't quite name. Across town, in a dimly lit bar, Jonathan sat hunched over a whiskey, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. A man slid into the booth across from him, his face half hidden in shadow. You sure about this? The man asked, his voice low. She's not someone you mess with lightly. Jonathan laughed bitter and sharp. She thinks she's untouchable, but I know things. Things she's hidden from everyone, even her precious inner circle. The man leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Like what? Jonathan smirked, draining his glass. Let's just say Naomi's not the saint she plays. And I'm not the only one who wants her to fall. The man nodded, sliding an envelope across the table. Then we keep digging, but you better be right. Because if this backfires, you're done. Jonathan's smirk faltered just for a second. He took the envelope, his fingers trembling slightly. Oh, I'm right. And when I'm done, she'll wish she'd never crossed me. Back in her office, Naomi stood, staring at the city below. Her reflection in the glass looked back at her, fierce but tired. She'd fought too hard to let Jonathan drag her down now, but as she turned to leave, her eyes caught on her desk, on the stack of contracts, now slightly askew. She froze. Hadn't Maya been tidying up earlier? Her pulse quickened. She crossed the room, flipping through the papers. Nothing seemed missing. Yet. Naomi's phone buzzed again, this time with an email from an unknown sender. The subject line was simple. You can't hide forever. Her breath caught. She didn't open it, not yet. But as she stood there, the weight of everything, Jonathan's lawsuit, Maya's odd familiarity, the secrets she'd buried, pressed down on her. For the first time in years, Naomi Carter felt something she hadn't in a long time. Fear. And somewhere in the shadows of her perfect world, someone was watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Naomi's office felt colder than usual, the city lights outside casting a stark glow across her desk. The email from the unknown sender still sat unopened in her inbox, its subject line, "You can't hide forever," burning in her mind. She'd spent the night combing through her past, trying to pinpoint what Jonathan could possibly know. Old business deals? A personal betrayal? Nothing fit. But the unease lingered, sharpened by the subtle misplacement of her contracts and Maya's overly familiar texts. Naomi was no stranger to pressure, but this felt like a noose tightening. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Marcus, her COO, his voice clipped. Naomi, the Singapore deal's dead. They just pulled out. She froze, her grip on the phone tightening. What? Why? We had them locked in. Leaked documents, Marcus said, his tone grim. Internal files, projections, risk assessments, the works. They're all over the tech blogs. The investors think we're unstable. Naomi's heart pounded. Those files are locked down. Only a handful of people have access. Marcus hesitated. Yeah, and your new assistant's one of them. The name hit like a spark in gasoline. Maya. Naomi's mind raced back to the photographs Maya had taken, the way she'd lingered over the contracts. She'd dismissed it as paranoia, but now it felt like a flashing warning she'd ignored. Get me everything on Maya, she said, her voice low. Now. An hour later, Naomi sat in the conference room, a tablet in front of her displaying the leaked documents. They were damning. Confidential notes on Carter Ventures' vulnerabilities, flagged for the Singapore deal. Across from her, Maya stood, her usual eager smile replaced by a neutral mask. Marcus lingered by the door, his arms crossed, watching the exchange like a referee. Naomi didn't waste time. She slid the tablet across the table. Explain this. Maya glanced at the screen, unfazed. Looks like a mess, but I didn't leak anything. Don't play dumb, Naomi snapped, her voice cutting through the room. These files were on my desk. You had access. You were photographing my documents. Maya's eyes flickered, but her voice stayed steady. You're reaching, Ms. Carter. I'm just an assistant. Why would I tank your deal? Naomi leaned forward, her gaze locked on Maya's. Because you're not just an assistant. You're not incompetent. You're planted. For a moment, the room was silent, the air thick with tension. Then Maya's lips curled into a faint, cold smile. It took you long enough to notice. Naomi's breath caught, but she kept her face impassive. Who's pulling your strings? Jonathan? Maya's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. You think you're so smart, Naomi. Always one step ahead. But you didn't see me coming, did you? Answer the question, Naomi said, her voice like steel. Maya tilted her head, her tone almost mocking. Jonathan's my half-brother, and he's not the only one who wants to see you fall. The words landed like a punch. Naomi's mind reeled, piecing it together. Maya's eagerness, her access, her subtle probing. She'd been played, and the betrayal stung sharper than she'd expected. But she didn't flinch. So this was your plan? Leak a few files, tank a deal, and what, bring me down? You're out of your depth. Maya laughed, a low, bitter sound. You think this is just about one deal? Oh, Naomi, we're just getting started. You humiliated Jonathan, ruined his life. Did you think he'd just slink away? He ruined himself, Naomi shot back. And you're delusional if you think you can finish what he started. Maya's eyes narrowed. You're not as untouchable as you think. There's blood on your hands, Naomi. Secrets you've buried, and we're going to dig them up. Naomi's pulse spiked, but she kept her voice steady. Get out. You're fired. Maya didn't move. You can fire me, but you can't stop what's coming. Jonathan knows things. So do I. And someone else, someone you trust, isn't who you think they are. The cryptic warning hung in the air, a knife's edge of doubt. Naomi's mind flashed to Marcus, to her legal team, to the handful of people she let close. Could one of them be compromised? She shoved the thought aside. Security's on their way, she said. You've got 2 minutes to leave, or I'll have you escorted out. Maya shrugged, grabbing her bag. You'll regret this, Naomi. You should have stayed out of the spotlight. She walked out, her heels clicking against the floor, leaving Naomi staring at the empty doorway. Marcus stepped forward, his face tense. Half-sister? Naomi, how did we miss this? Naomi didn't answer, her mind already racing. She needed to lock down her systems, audit every file Maya had touched, and figure out what Jonathan and Maya knew. But Maya's parting words echoed. Someone you trust isn't who you think they are. The open loop gnawed at her, a crack in her carefully built armor. She turned to Marcus. I want a full background check on everyone in this office. No exceptions. He nodded, but his hesitation was back. Naomi, what if they're right? What if there's something? There's nothing. She cut him off, her voice sharp. But the lie felt heavy. There were secrets. Deals she'd bent the rules for, choices she'd justified to climb to the top. She'd buried them deep, but now they felt like landmines. That night, Naomi sat alone in her apartment, a glass of wine untouched on the counter. She opened the anonymous email, her heart pounding. It contained a single line, check your first deal. The truth is closer than you think. Attached was a grainy photo of a document, one she recognized instantly. A contract from her first major deal, the one that launched Carter Ventures. It was stamped confidential with a handwritten note in the margin. Approved, but at what cost? Naomi's hands trembled. That deal had been her breakout, but it had come with compromises. Shady partners, off-the-books payments. She'd covered her tracks, or so she thought. If Jonathan and Maya had this, what else did they have? And who was feeding them information? The photo's angle suggested it was taken recently from inside her office. Someone had access, someone close. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Jonathan's voice slithered through the line. Told you, Naomi, you've got skeletons, and I'm not the only one who knows. What do you want? She demanded, her voice low. An apology, he said, his tone dripping with venom. On your knees in public, or I burn your empire to the ground. She laughed, cold and sharp. You're pathetic, Jonathan. You think you can scare me? I don't need to scare you, he said. I just need to wait. You'll see. The line went dead. Naomi stared at her phone, her mind spinning. Maya's betrayal, the leak, the photo, Jonathan's threat. It was all connected, but the pieces didn't fit yet. And that final warning from Maya about someone close kept circling. She thought of Marcus's hesitation, the way her legal team had seemed too quick to dismiss Jonathan's lawsuit. Doubt crept in, a slow poison. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the storm closing in on her. Naomi poured her wine down the sink, her resolve hardening. She'd built her empire from nothing, clawed her way to the top. She wasn't about to let Jonathan, Maya, or anyone else tear it down. But as she stared at the photo on her screen, one question burned. Who was the traitor in her inner circle? Naomi's apartment was silent, the city's distant hum barely penetrating the thick glass of her windows. The grainy photo of the old contract still haunted her screen, its handwritten note. Approved, but at what cost? A ghost from her past. Jonathan's phone call had left her rattled, his smug threat to burn her empire echoing alongside Maya's cryptic warning about a traitor in her inner circle. She'd spent the night cross-referencing her team's access logs, but every lead hit a dead end. Someone close was feeding Jonathan information, and the not knowing was eating her alive. Her phone buzzed, a new email from an unfamiliar address. We need to talk. V. Naomi's jaw tightened. Vanessa, Jonathan's ex-wife, was the last person she expected to hear from. The woman had stood by Jonathan's side at the wedding, her smile sharp as a blade while Naomi was publicly humiliated, before Naomi turned the tables. Why reach out now? Naomi hesitated, her finger hovering over the delete button. But curiosity, or maybe desperation, won out. The email listed a time and place. A quiet cafe downtown, noon tomorrow. Come alone, it read. Naomi didn't sleep. By morning, her resolve was iron. She'd face Vanessa, hear her out, and decide if this was a trap or a lifeline. At the cafe, she chose a corner table, her back to the wall, eyes scanning the room. Vanessa arrived precisely at noon, her designer coat and sunglasses a stark contrast to the haggard look in her eyes. She slid into the seat across from Naomi, removing her glasses to reveal dark circles. "You look like hell," Naomi said, her voice flat. Vanessa's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "You look like you're waiting for a bomb to go off." Naomi leaned back, arms crossed. "Why am I here, Vanessa? Last time I saw you, you were cheering while Jonathan tried to bury me." Vanessa's gaze dropped to the table, her fingers twisting a napkin. "I was used, just like you." Naomi's eyes narrowed. "You were part of humiliating me. Don't play victim now." Vanessa flinched but met Naomi's stare. "I know, and I'm not asking for forgiveness, but you need to hear this. Jonathan lied to me too. The wedding, the whole spectacle, it was never about me. It was about you." Naomi's pulse quickened, but she kept her face impassive. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa leaned forward, her voice low. "He never got over you, Naomi. He was obsessed. The wedding was a setup from the start, a way to drag you back into his world, to break you in front of everyone. He knew you'd show up. He planned for you to take the mic, to make a scene. He wanted the world to see you as unhinged." Naomi's mind flashed to that night. The way Jonathan had smirked when she'd grabbed the microphone, the way the room had hung on her every word as she exposed his lies. She'd thought she'd won, but Vanessa's words twisted the memory. "You're saying he manipulated me into that moment?" Vanessa nodded, her expression grim. "He thought you'd crack. He didn't expect you to turn it around and destroy him instead. But that's why he's coming for you now. You didn't just humiliate him, you'd proved he couldn't control you. And he can't live with that." Naomi's hands clenched under the table. The idea that Jonathan had orchestrated her pain so meticulously made her stomach churn. But Vanessa's sudden confession felt too convenient, too perfectly timed. "Why tell me this?" she asked, her voice sharp. "What's in it for you?" Vanessa's eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "Because I was blind, Naomi. I thought he loved me. I stood there smiling like an idiot while he used me to get to you. When I found out, it broke me. I divorced him, but it's not enough. I want him to pay." Naomi studied her, searching for a lie. Vanessa's pain seemed real, but trust was a luxury Naomi couldn't afford. "You expect me to believe you're on my side now? After everything?" "I don't expect anything," Vanessa said, her voice raw. "But I know things. Things he's doing, people he's working with, like Maya." Naomi's breath caught. "What do you know about Maya?" Vanessa hesitated, glancing around the cafe. "She's not just his half-sister, she's his attack dog. Jonathan's broke, but he's got backers, people who want your company gutted. Maya's been feeding them your secrets, but she's not the only one. There's someone else in your circle, someone higher up." Naomi's mind raced. Marcus? Her legal team? The pool of suspects was shrinking, and the betrayal felt closer than ever. "Who?" she demanded. Vanessa shook her head. "I don't know yet. Jonathan's careful, but I can find out if you let me help." Naomi laughed, cold and sharp. "You think I'm going to trust you? You're as much a part of this as he is." "I was," Vanessa admitted, her voice breaking. "But I'm not anymore. I'm not asking you to like me, Naomi. I'm asking you to use me. I can get close to him again. He still thinks I'm weak, that I'll crawl back. Let me prove I'm not." The offer hung between them, a dangerous temptation. Naomi's empire was under siege. Leaked documents, a lawsuit, and now this photo from her past threatening to surface. Vanessa could be an ally, or she could be another trap. The uncertainty was maddening, but Naomi had built her life on calculated risks. "I'll think about it," she said finally, standing. "But if you're lying, Vanessa, I'll bury you right next to him." Vanessa didn't flinch. Fair enough, but you're running out of time. He's planning something big and he's not working alone. Naomi walked out, her mind a storm of doubt and strategy. Vanessa's story made sense, but it also raised new questions. If Jonathan had planned the wedding as a trap, what else had he engineered? And who was the traitor Vanessa hinted at? The tension coiled tighter, every step forward revealing a new shadow. That evening, Naomi sat in her office, the city glittering below. She pulled up the photo of the old contract again, its note taunting her. Her first deal had been dirty, but she'd been careful. Too careful for Jonathan to uncover it without help. Someone inside her company was betraying her, and Vanessa's vague warning only deepened the mystery. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Found something on Maya's laptop. Call me. Naomi's heart pounded. She dialed him, her voice steady despite the dread. What is it? Marcus's tone was grim. Emails. She was sending your files to an encrypted server. But there's more. Someone else was CC'd. No name, just an alias. Shadow. Naomi's blood ran cold. Shadow. The word felt like a key to a lock she hadn't found yet. Keep digging, she said. And Marcus, watch your back. As she hung up, another email pinged, the same unknown sender as before. This time, the subject read, You can't trust her. No body, just another photo. This one of Vanessa, meeting Jonathan in a parking lot, time-stamped yesterday. Naomi's stomach dropped. Was Vanessa playing both sides, or was this another of Jonathan's games? The walls of her empire were closing in, and Naomi was running out of moves. Vanessa's regret, Maya's betrayal, Jonathan's threats, they were all pieces of a puzzle she couldn't solve. Not yet. But as she stared at the photo, one thing was clear. The next move would change everything. Naomi's office felt like a cage, the city's glow outside mocking her shrinking control. The photo of Vanessa meeting Jonathan in a parking lot burned in her mind. Its timestamp, yesterday, casting doubt on Vanessa's tearful confession. Was Vanessa a pawn or a player? The email's cryptic warning, you can't trust her, only deepened the riddle. Marcus's discovery of Maya's emails, CC'd to an alias called Shadow, hinted at a larger network closing in. Naomi's empire, built on precision and power, was cracking, and the traitor in her circle remained a ghost. Her phone vibrated, shattering the silence. It was Jade, her CFO and closest friend, her voice tight. Naomi, we need to meet. Now I found something in the books. Naomi's stomach twisted. What kind of something? Not over the phone, Jade said. I'm at the downtown office. Get here. Naomi grabbed her coat, her mind racing. Jade was her rock, the one person she'd trusted since their college days. If Jade was rattled, it was bad. The drive to the downtown office was a blur, the city's lights streaking past as Naomi replayed every threat. Jonathan's lawsuit, Maya's betrayal, Vanessa's shaky alliance, the old contract photo. Each was a thread in a web she couldn't untangle. Jade was waiting in the conference room, her laptop open, papers scattered across the table. Her usual calm was gone, replaced by a tense frown. Sit, she said, sliding a financial report toward Naomi. These transactions don't add up. Naomi scanned the document, her heart sinking. The report detailed payments, hundreds of thousands, funneled through a shell company tied to Carter Ventures. The dates stretched back years to a time when Naomi was just starting out. This is impossible, she said, her voice low. I'd know about this. Jade's eyes locked on hers, searching. The shell company's name is Horizon Innovations. Ring any bells? Naomi froze. Horizon Innovations. The name hit like a buried memory clawing its way up. It was a startup she'd co-founded in college, a side project with a professor who'd mentored her. She'd walked away after graduation, thinking it was dead. That company folded, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. It was nothing. Jade shook her head, pulling up another file. It didn't fold. It's active, Naomi. And it's been moving money through our accounts for years. Small enough to stay under the radar, but it's there. And now it's under scrutiny. Naomi's pulse spiked. Scrutiny? By who? Jade hesitated, her expression grim. The SEC? They're launching an ethics investigation. You've been summoned for questioning next week. The room tilted. Naomi gripped the table, her mind reeling. An ethics investigation could tank her company, her reputation, everything she'd built. This is Jonathan, she said, her voice sharp. He's behind this, digging up dirt to bury me. Jade's frown deepened. Maybe, but the probe's coming from someone else, someone with pull. Look at this. She slid a letter across the table stamped with the SEC's seal. The name at the bottom made Naomi's blood run cold. Dr. Richard Hargrove. Hargrove, her college professor, her mentor, the man who'd seen her potential when she was just a scrappy undergrad. He'd co-founded Horizon with her, pushing her to take risks, to bend rules. When she'd left, he'd been bitter, but she'd thought he'd moved on. Hargrove? She whispered. Why now? Jade's voice was soft but firm. He's claiming Horizon was his brainchild. Says you cut him out, took his ideas, and built Carter Ventures on his work. He's got documents, Naomi. Contracts with your signature. Naomi's hands trembled as she flipped through the letter. Hargrove's accusations were detailed. Intellectual theft, financial misconduct, even hints of coercion. It was a lie, but a convincing one. She remembered those college days, the late nights in Hargrove's office, his encouragement laced with control. He'd wanted her to stay, to build Horizon with him. When she'd chosen her own path, he'd called her ungrateful. Now, years later, he was back, wielding her past like a weapon. This is leverage, Naomi said, her voice low. He wants something. Jade nodded. Probably credit, or money, or both. But if this goes public, it's a death sentence for us. Investors are already spooked from the Singapore leak. Naomi's mind raced, connecting dots. Jonathan's threats, Maya's betrayal, Vanessa's murky motives, and now Hargrove's probe. It was too coordinated, too precise. Someone's pulling string, she said. Hargrove's not working alone. Jade's eyes narrowed. You think he's tied to Jonathan? I don't know, Naomi admitted, her voice tight. But I'm done being a step behind. She stood, pacing. We lock this down. Audit every transaction, trace Horizon's accounts. And I need to talk to Hargrove. Jade hesitated, her voice softening. Naomi, is there anything you're not telling me? About Horizon? Naomi met her gaze, the weight of Jade's trust pressing down. There were things. Deals she'd made in those early days. Corners she'd cut to escape Hargrove's shadow. She'd justified them, buried them. But now they were resurfacing, threatening to drag her under. It's in the past, she said finally. Let's keep it there. Jade didn't push, but her silence spoke volumes. As Naomi left the office, the SEC letter burned in her bag. She needed answers, and Hargrove was the key. That evening, she tracked him down to a lecture hall at her old university where he was guest speaking. The room was half empty, his voice droning about innovation. When he saw Naomi in the back, his smile faltered. After the talk, she cornered him in the hallway, her voice low. What do you want, Richard? Hargrove's eyes gleamed, his tone patronizing. Naomi, still so direct. I want what's mine. Horizon was my vision. You took it, built your empire. I deserve credit. You're delusional, she snapped. I left Horizon because you wanted control, not collaboration. This probe is blackmail. He chuckled, unfazed. Call it what you want, but I have proof, and friends who'd love to see you fall. Step aside, give me my due, or the SEC tears you apart. Naomi's fists clenched. Who's backing you? Jonathan? Hargrove's smile widened, but he didn't answer. You've got a week to decide, he said, walking away. Choose wisely. Naomi stood frozen, her mind spinning. Hargrove's probe? Jonathan's threats? The mysterious shadow? They were connected, a noose tightening around her. Back at her apartment, she pored over the Horizon files Jade had sent. The transactions were real, but the signatures weren't hers. Someone had forged them, framing her. The realization hit hard. The traitor wasn't just close. They were rewriting her past. Her phone buzzed, a new email from the unknown sender. Look closer at Jade. Attached was a bank statement showing payments from Horizon to an account in Jade's name. Naomi's heart stopped. Jade, her oldest friend, the one she'd trusted above all. Was she Shadow? Or was this another lie designed to break her? The investigation loomed. Hargrove's smirk lingered and Jade's loyalty wavered. Naomi was alone, her secrets weaponized, her empire on the brink. The next move wasn't just a risk, it was survival. Naomi's apartment was a fortress of glass and steel, but it felt like a crumbling ruin. The bank statement implicating Jade sat open on her laptop, its numbers glaring like a betrayal etched in ink. Jade, her oldest friend, tied to Horizon's dirty money. Was it real or another of Jonathan's twisted games? Hargrove's smug ultimatum echoed in her mind, his SEC probe a ticking bomb. The mysterious shadow, Maya's betrayal, Vanessa's shaky alliance. Every thread tightened the noose around her empire. Naomi was a fighter, but for the first time, she felt the weight of a fight she might not win. Her phone buzzed, a news alert. Carter Ventures under fire. Ethics probe targets. CEO Naomi Carter. The media had caught wind of the SEC investigation, and the feeding frenzy was brutal. Headlines screamed of fraud, betrayal, and a fall from grace. Her stock was tanking, investors were pulling out, and her board was scheduling an emergency meeting. Naomi's chest tightened. She'd built Carter Ventures from nothing, clawed her way to the top. Now it was slipping through her fingers. She poured a coffee, untouched, and paced. Hargrove's probe was bad enough, but the forged signatures on Horizon's transactions pointed to someone inside her company, someone with access and motive. Jade? The thought made her sick, but the email from the unknown sender, look closer at Jade, was too precise to ignore. Naomi needed proof, but every step forward felt like walking into a trap. A knock at her door jolted her. It was Marcus, his face grim, a tablet in hand. You need to see this, he said, stepping inside. He pulled up an email from a whistleblower account, detailing a data breach. Maya didn't just leak the Singapore files, he said. She stole our client lists, names, contacts, contracts, everything. They're being shopped to competitors as we speak. Naomi's blood ran cold. How did this happen? We locked her out. Marcus shook his head. She had back doors in our system. Someone gave her access after we fired her. Naomi's mind raced. Shadow, she muttered. The alias from Maya's emails was the key, but it was still a ghost. Who's she working with? Marcus swiped to another article, this one a gut punch. Jonathan Wells partners with tech mogul. Elena Voss in bold merger. Elena Voss, Naomi's former rival, a ruthless CEO who'd once tried to buy Carter Ventures out from under her. The article detailed their new venture, a tech conglomerate poised to dominate the market. They're using our client lists, Marcus said. This is a coordinated hit. Naomi's fists clenched. Jonathan, broke and desperate, had found a new ally in Elena, a woman with the resources and venom to dismantle her. Maya's theft, Hargrove's probe, the media storm. It was all converging, a perfect storm to break her. They want me to fold, she said, her voice low. They think I'll crack. Marcus met her gaze, his voice steady. Will you?" The question hung heavy. Naomi didn't answer, but doubt gnawed at her. She'd faced setbacks before, but this was different. Her empire was shaking, her allies were suspect, and her past was a weapon in her enemy's hands. For a moment, she imagined walking away, resigning, disappearing, letting the vultures pick over the ruins. The thought was a relief, then a betrayal of everything she'd fought for. She sent Marcus away, promising to strategize tomorrow. Alone, she sank onto her couch, the weight of it all crushing her. Her eyes fell on a small wooden box on her shelf, a keepsake from her late mother. She hadn't opened it in years, but something pulled her to it now. Inside was a voice recorder, a gift from her mother during her college days. Naomi pressed play, and her mother's voice filled the room, warm and fierce. "Don't you ever let them break you?" her mother said, each word a lifeline. "You come from warriors, Naomi. They'll try to tear you down, but you're stronger than their lies. You fight, you rise, you win." Naomi's throat tightened, tears stinging her eyes. Her mother had died when she was 20, leaving her to navigate a world that didn't want her to succeed. That voice had carried her through every battle. College, Horizon, Jonathan's betrayal. Now it was a reminder of her roots, her fire. She played it again, letting the words sink in. Warriors didn't run, they fought, but the fight felt impossible. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Vanessa. "Jonathan's meeting Elena tonight. I can get you details. Trust me?" Naomi stared at the message, her mistrust warring with desperation. Vanessa's photo with Jonathan still lingered, a question mark she couldn't erase. She typed back, "Prove it. Get me proof." If Vanessa was playing both sides, Naomi would find out. She opened her laptop, drafting a resignation letter. "To the board of Carter Ventures," she began, her fingers trembling. "Effective immediately, I am stepping down as CEO." The words felt like surrender, a betrayal of her mother's voice. She typed on, outlining a transition plan, her heart sinking with every sentence. But she didn't send it. The letter sat open, unsaved, a lifeline she wasn't ready to cut. Her phone rang, shattering the silence. It was Jade, her voice urgent. "Naomi, I found something. The Horizon accounts. They're linked to Elena Voss's company. She's been funding them for years." Naomi's breath caught. "Elena? How?" "I don't know yet," Jade said. "But the signatures on those transactions? They're not just forged, they're backdated to make it look like you approved them. Someone's been planning this for a long time." Naomi's mind spun. Elena, Jonathan, Hargrove, Maya? Were they all connected? And where did Jade fit? The bank statement tying Jade to Horizon was still unaddressed, a shadow over her loyalty. "Keep digging," Naomi said, her voice tight. "But Jade? Don't tell anyone, not yet." Jade paused, her tone soft. "You don't trust me, do you?" Naomi didn't answer, the silence deafening. She hung up, her heart pounding. The resignation letter stared back at her, a temptation and a warning. She closed the laptop, her mother's voice echoing. "You come from warriors." She wasn't done yet, but the walls were closing in. A new email pinged from the unknown sender. "Time's running out. Check your board." Attached was a screenshot of an internal memo scheduling a vote to oust Naomi as CEO. The timestamp was an hour ago. Her board, people she'd handpicked, was turning on her. Was Shadow among them? Or was this Elena's influence? Jonathan's revenge? Hargrove's leverage? Naomi stood, pacing, her resolve flickering. She could fight, confront the board, expose Elena's ties to Horizon, call Vanessa's bluff. But every move risked exposing her own secrets, the compromises she'd made to build her empire. The media was relentless, her clients were jumping ship, and her allies were fraying. She was backed against the wall, and the emotional toll was crushing. She played her mother's voice again, clinging to its strength. You fight, you rise, you win. Naomi's eyes burned, but she didn't cry. She opened the resignation letter, her cursor hovering over send. Her empire was trembling, her enemies were circling, and her past was a noose. But warriors didn't break. Not yet. The letter stayed unsent, a cliffhanger in her heart. Outside the city roared, oblivious to the battle raging within her. Naomi didn't know who to trust, what to believe, or how to win. But as her mother's voice faded, one truth remained. The next move would either save her or destroy everything. Naomi's laptop screen glowed in the dim light of her apartment, the unsent resignation letter a silent challenge. Her mother's voice still echoed. You come from warriors? A lifeline against the chaos threatening to swallow her. The board's memo to oust her, Elena Voss's ties to Horizon, Jonathan's merger with her stolen client lists, and the shadow of Jade's possible betrayal had pushed her to the edge. But surrender wasn't in her blood. The email from the unknown sender, check your board, had been a wake-up call. Naomi wasn't just fighting for her empire, she was fighting for her life. She closed the letter, her resolve hardening. It was time to strike back. Her phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Got proof. Jonathan and Elena signed a deal last night. Sending files now. Naomi's jaw tightened. Vanessa's loyalty was still a question mark, but the files could be a weapon. She opened the encrypted attachment, a contract detailing Jonathan's merger with Elena's company, Voss Tech, with her stolen client list as collateral. It was damning, but Naomi needed more. She needed to dismantle them from the inside. She called Marcus, her voice steady. I need everything we have on Voss Tech. Ownership records, shareholders, the works. And pull the security footage from my office. The week Maya was here. Marcus hesitated. Naomi, the board's meeting tomorrow. They're voting you out. Let them try, she said, her tone ice. I'm not done yet. Naomi had always been 3 steps ahead, even when the world thought she was cornered. Months ago, when Jonathan's lawsuit first surfaced, she'd suspected he'd resurface with a new scheme. She'd quietly invested in his ventures through a shell company, buying silent shares in his new merger with Elena. It was a long game, but Naomi played for keeps. Now, those shares were her trump card. By morning, Marcus delivered. The ownership records confirmed Naomi held a 15% stake in Voss Tech, enough to sway votes, enough to destabilize. The security footage was even better, grainy but clear, showing Maya slipping a USB drive into Naomi's computer, copying files while pretending to clean. Naomi's prediction of betrayal had been right. She'd hired a private investigator to tail Maya after her firing, uncovering her ties to Jonathan and Elena. The pieces were falling into place. Naomi walked into the boardroom at Carter Ventures, the air thick with tension. The board members shifted uncomfortably, their memo to oust her still fresh. Her legal team flanked her, armed with files. She didn't sit. Before you vote, she said, her voice commanding, you should know I'm flipping Jonathan's lawsuit. Murmurs rippled through the room. Naomi projected the security footage onto the screen, Maya's theft undeniable. Maya Wells, Jonathan's half-sister, stole our client lists, she said. She fed them to Elena Voss, who's now merging with Jonathan. But here's the kicker. I own 15% of their company. Silent shares bought months ago. The board's faces paled. Naomi pressed on, sliding contracts across the table. These prove Jonathan and Elena used stolen data to secure their merger. I'm filing criminal charges for corporate espionage. And the SEC probe, it's collapsing. She pulled up another document, this one a bombshell. Her investigator had dug into Hargrove's claims about Horizon Innovations. The signatures tying Naomi to the shady transactions were forgeries, traced back to Hargrove himself. He'd fabricated evidence, banking on her silence. But Naomi had hired a forensic analyst, and the results were ironclad. Hargrove's been exposed, she said. "The SEC's dropping the probe. My record's clear." The room was silent, the board's confidence shattered. Naomi leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "You thought I was finished. You were wrong. I built this company, and I'm not letting anyone, Jonathan, Elena, or you, tear it down." One board member, a gray-haired executive named Claire, spoke up, her voice shaky. "Naomi, we didn't know the full story." "You didn't ask," Naomi shot back. "But you'll vote to keep me, or I'll take my shares, my clients, and walk. Your choice." The vote was unanimous. Naomi stayed, but the victory felt hollow. The traitor, Shadow, was still out there. Jade's bank statement, Vanessa's murky motives, the unknown sender's emails, they lingered like shadows. Naomi had won a battle, but the war was far from over. That evening, Naomi stood in her office, the city sprawling below. Her phone buzzed, a message from her investigator. Hargroves fled the country, no trace. She frowned. Hargrove's exit was too clean, too sudden. Someone had tipped him off. Her mind flicked to Jade, but she pushed the thought away. Not yet. She needed proof. A knock at her door startled her. Vanessa stood there, unannounced, her expression unreadable. Naomi's guard went up. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice cold. Vanessa stepped inside, closing the door. "I heard about the board meeting. You're a force, Naomi, but you're still fighting ghosts." Naomi crossed her arms. "You've got 5 minutes. Talk." Vanessa's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "I'm not your enemy. I sent you the contract, Jonathan and Elena's deal. I've been watching them, feeding you what I can. But I want more than just taking them down." Naomi's brow furrowed. "More?" Vanessa pulled a folder from her bag, sliding it across the desk. "I'm an investor. Silent like you. I've got capital, connections, and a score to settle. Let's rebuild something without the men who tried to ruin us." Naomi stared at the folder, her pulse racing. Vanessa's offer was a lifeline, but it came with a twist she hadn't seen coming. "You're the unknown sender," she said, the realization hitting. "The emails, the photos, you've been playing me." Vanessa didn't flinch. "I had to get your attention. You don't trust easily, Naomi, but I'm not Jonathan. I'm not Elena. I'm offering a partnership, not a trap." Naomi's mind spun. Vanessa's confession explained the cryptic emails, but it didn't erase the photo of her with Jonathan. Was this a genuine alliance or another layer of deception? She opened the folder. Financial projections, a blueprint for a new venture, free of Vostek's taint. It was tempting, but trust was a razor's edge. "Why me?" Naomi asked, her voice low. "You could start over anywhere." Vanessa's gaze hardened. "Because they broke us both. Jonathan used me, Elena bankrolled him, and Hargrove played his part. I want to build something they can't touch. And you're the only one I know who can make it happen." Naomi didn't answer, her mother's voice echoing. "You come from warriors." She'd fought back, exposed Maya, crushed Hargrove's lies, and turned Jonathan's lawsuit against him. But Shadow was still out there, and Jade's loyalty was a question mark. Vanessa's offer was a chance to rise stronger, or a gamble that could burn her. "I'll think about it," Naomi said finally, her tone guarded. "But if you're lying, Vanessa, you'll regret it." Vanessa nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As Vanessa left, Naomi sat, the folder unopened. Her empire was battered but standing. She'd flipped the game, but the cost was high. Trust shattered, secrets exposed. She pulled up her mother's voice memo, playing it one more time. "You fight, you rise, you win.